Canadians. And so I think that we need to make sure that we listen to what they have to say. They've done an open letter to the government, and I would recommend that the government take a look at that as well. And finally, accountability, due process, and public regulation. There is potential for abuse, so I would encourage the government to take a look, and I look forward to more discussion at committee. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
So the honourable member will have 5 minutes for questions and comments the next time that this is being debated. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for Kitchener Centre.
Madam Speaker, the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence is a critical time to speak about a shadow pandemic we're in the midst of, one of femicide, the intentional murder of women and girls because they are women and girls. Last year in Canada, there was a 26% increase in femicides compared to the previous year. Just last week, a woman in my community was killed by her intimate partner, one of 158 femicides reported so far this year. The perpetrators of gender-based violence are predominantly men, and so we must be part of the solution. In my community, I'm grateful for organizations like the Sexual Assault Support Center of Waterloo Region, whose Male Allies program engages boys and men in ending systemic and everyday forms of gender-based violence. We need more of these programs across the country, but this requires sustained increases in their funding to support the increased need in their services. I encourage all of my colleagues to support this life-saving work. Thank you.
The honourable member for Niagara Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I am both saddened and happy today to stand in the House and recognize the contributions and the retirement of Port Colborne resident Barbara Butters. First elected to City Council in 1997, Barbara went on to serve 6 terms as a City Councillor before adding another term as a Regional Councillor representing the great people of the City of Port Colborne. While we will miss her wisdom and her service, we also want to wish her and her husband Larry, our city's Santa and Mrs. Claus at this time of year, the very best in her retirement. Barbara has been an inspiration for anyone who had the honor of working with her and spent a lifetime setting an example for anyone wishing to serve their communities. Barbara Butters has always been a genuine, loyal, and caring individual, a great Canadian, Mr. Speaker. It was an honor to work with her and a privilege to call her a friend. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Regina Wascana.
Mr. Speaker, last summer, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz visited Canada and asked us to increase oil and gas exports to his country so they could stop buying from Russia. This Prime Minister said no. This Prime Minister said there has never been a strong business case for Canadian oil and gas exports to Europe. So what did the German Chancellor do next? He flew to the Middle East and made the same offer to the dictators of the United Arab Emirates and Qatar. Those Middle Eastern dictators said yes. Yes to a multi-year memorandum of understanding that will guarantee steady exports, long-term employment, and economic spin-offs for years to come. It's too bad that Canadian workers were left out in the cold, and all of those economic benefits will be in those Middle Eastern countries. Mr. Speaker, when is the Prime Minister going to learn that the world needs more Canadian energy?
The honourable member for Humber River, Black Creek.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last month my fellow MPs and I successfully visited Taiwan as Canada-Taiwan Parliamentary Friendship Group delegation. The focus of this trip was, as it is always, it has been for the Friendship Group travels, trade opportunities, and cultural exchange. Taiwan is an important stakeholder and a valuable partner for Canada and the international community. I was delighted to learn that there are more than 30 Canadian companies operating in Taiwan and about 60,000 Canadians residing there. Our Friendship Group delegation was impressed with the offshore wind project by the Northland Power, a major Canadian investor, contributing a great deal to the Taiwan's 2050 zero net emission strategy. In 2021, Taiwan was Canada's 11th largest trading partner, and there are opportunities to advancing this partnership even more so now. There's a lot of potential in green economy, agricultural markets, semiconductor industry, education, science, and beyond. Canada and Taiwan have a long and rich history of cultural exchanges, and I hope our friendship will grow even stronger with the world recovering from the pandemic. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, I'm honoured to underscore the exceptional achievements of Mr. Felix Blackburn, Director General of the Chateauguay River Watershed Conservation Council. The Chateauguay River and its watershed are well known to Mr. Blackburn. Since 2002, he has dedicated his skill, passion, and talent to the conservation of this natural environment. Through sampling, major projects, and civic engagement, Mr. Blackburn has educated our community about the importance of water quality. And we've seen the results in the adoption of innovative, sustainable practices. Mr. Blackburn is retiring, but like any good manager, he has prepared his new team. They are competent, involved, and efficient, and they're ready to pursue the essential mission of the Chateauguay River Watershed Council. Felix, please have a great retirement. It is well deserved. I wish you many happy canoeing days on our beautiful Chateauguay River.
L'honorable député de
The Honourable Member for Vimy. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to underscore the work and dedication of Dr. Lucy Gilbert and her team, who have developed Dovagene, a genome test to screen for uterine cancer. This is a world first at the McGill Health Center, University Center. Ovary and endometrial cancer are the fourth largest cancer cases among Canadians.
While the 5-year survival of ovarian cancer patients is below 50%. However, there is hope. Dovagene detects and diagnoses these cancers early when it's microscopic and has not spread. Early diagnosis means potential cure rates of over 80%. This work adds to Canada's history of scientific excellence, a history which too often goes unsupported. We cannot miss this chance to capitalize on this scientific achievement because it will save countless women's lives in Canada and throughout the world. Thank you, Mr. President.
Bravo.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Canadians have been struggling, and liberal inflation is driving up the cost of everything from home heating to buying a tank of gas to buying groceries for your family. And this government is committed to making life more unaffordable by raising taxes on the necessities of life for Canadians, forcing record numbers of people to turn to food banks to feed their families. In fact, 1.5 million Canadians used food banks in a single month, and while that's a staggering statistic, every single one of those people is barely getting by. These are folks who are teetering because the Liberal government has made life so unaffordable, and it's become personal. I recently met with Ali at the Brockville Food Bank, and she told me that the need has truly never been higher. So if you're able, please consider giving to your local food bank this season. The Liberal government needs to remove the tax on home heating so Canadians don't freeze in the dark, and they need to end their inflationary spending. Canadians deserve better than what they're getting from these Liberals. They need hope, and that's exactly what Canada's Conservatives are going to provide.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Scarborough-Gilwood.
Speaker, December 2nd marks the International Day for the Abolition of Slavery. Slavery has been a blight on humanity since the dawn of time. Canadians unwittingly participate in this scourge by purchasing products made by slaves. We can hardly decry the plight of these slaves if we simultaneously create a market for their products. A transparency bill works on the theory that sunlight is the best disinfectant. Yesterday, S211 returned to this place for its final reading. Is it enough? Should we stop here? Of course not. S211 is merely a marker on this journey. But I hope colleagues will reflect on the legislative genius of William Wilberforce. When the legislative path to the abolition of slavery was blocked, he got the trading of slaves abolished instead, thereby making the ownership of slaves worthless. Shortly thereafter, the British Empire abolished slavery forever. On this occasion of the International Day of the Abolition of Slavery, it's important to remember that sometimes you have to do indirectly what you can't do directly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for York Centre.
Mr. Speaker, in Canada, a woman is murdered every 2.5 days. 50% are killed by intimate partners, 26 by a family member. The early signs are there, and too many look away. It's just that they don't like my friends or family. It's just that they're keeping me on a tight budget. It's just that they have a short temper. It's just a bruise. It's just a scratch. It's just a burn. It's just how it is. Mr. Speaker, these are some of the myriad of ways that victims of coercive control, intimate partner violence, and gender-based violence are trapped and silenced around us each and every day. And it's just not right. This week and the next 16 days of action against gender-based violence sends a message that it's not just. It means that we are working to make sure victims are not trapped and that we will not be silent in our pursuit to protect them. We're not only standing together, but we are stating clearly and with conviction that it's just not right. Today and every day we need to listen to the victims of gender-based violence. We need to hear them, see them, and believe them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Red Deer Lacombe.
Speaker, since this government took office in 2015, gang-related homicides have increased by 92%. Liberals reduced sentencing requirements for serious gun crimes, and now violent crime is up 32%. Liberals won't admit their soft-on-crime approach is failing all Canadians. Last week, this government initiated a ban on rifles and shotguns. This will ban hundreds of thousands of firearms in Canada that are used for hunting. The ban includes slow-to-fire guns, purpose-built hunting firearms that are designed to shoot birds or deer. They said they wouldn't, but they did. There is no trust in this government. Instead of addressing gang crime and gun smuggling, the government is vilifying hunters and farmers.
That's right.
Liberals know Canadian hunters aren't causing the crime surge in Canada, but they're going after them anyway because it's all about politics and not fighting crime. Their ill-conceived plans to go after hunters is the largest attack on law-abiding firearms owners in Canadian history. It is a direct attack on our Canadian cultural heritage. Conservatives will always stand up for victims, go after gangs and smugglers.
Honourable member for Markham Unionville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'm proud to rise in this House and acknowledge the great work that is being done to keep the community safe in my riding of Markham Unionville. In collaboration with York Regional Police, I'll be hosting my third crime prevention town hall, which provide essential safety tips and risk management information to the resident of Markham. Working together with law enforcement and other levels of government is critical to understanding our diverse communities and their needs. While in Ottawa, our government has taken comprehensive steps to improve public safety through our $250 million Building Safer Community Fund and Bill C-21, which will put a freeze on handguns in this country, increase penalty for firearm traffickers, and provide additional tools to law enforcement across this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Desnate, Mississippi, Churchill River.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives promote and believe in economic reconciliation. It is the solution to eradicating poverty and with it, the social issues that poverty creates. Treating symptoms rather than the root cause has failed. It is time to fundamentally change that approach. And away from the Ottawa bubble, that change has already begun. From the Kitimat LNG project in British Columbia to Cameco's uranium supply in Saskatchewan, from Vale's base metal mining in Ontario to the Mi'kmaq communities of Nova Scotia and their acquisition of Clearwater Seafoods, First Nations communities are taking control of their economic destinies. They want to be true partners in responsible resource development. They've started business, created employment, increased capacity, and have generated opportunities that will pay dividends for generations to come. Mr. Speaker, self-determination truly begins when Indigenous communities manage prosperity instead of poverty.
The honourable member for New Brunswick Southwest.
Mr. Speaker, families across the country are paying higher prices for gasoline, groceries, and home heating because of the Liberal carbon tax. People in Atlantic Canada rely more on home heating fuels, which is a vital necessity to stay warm. And here are some astonishing numbers. Since last year, home heating prices are up over 50% in New Brunswick and PEI, up 68% in Nova Scotia, and up 78% in Newfoundland and Labrador. Liberals say they are sick and tired of people talking about this cold winter. That's too bad for the Liberals, because this winter is just beginning. Prices are going to be even higher than last year for families because of this Liberal government. And the rebate the Liberals are promising is a scam. The Parliamentary Budget Officer says that over 80% of Canadians are going to pay more in the carbon tax than they receive from the rebate. This was a plan to bankrupt Canadians. End the scam. We need to end the carbon tax.
The honourable member for Glengarry, Prescott Russell.
Mr. Speaker, November 8th marked the first edition of the Ontario-Quebec Trade Awards in Trois-Rivières, an initiative that was undertaken by this society and the Quebec and Ontario governments. I'd like to congratulate La Violette Farm, which won the prize this year. Since 1977, this farm has been operating, and they raise hens and employ 13 people. You can find their eggs everywhere in the groceries in southern Quebec and in Ontario. This is a model of an interprovincial company that works and that serves its clients in French. Congratulations to Marcel Laviolette, his family, and his employees for their dedicated work. We're lucky to have you in our riding. Thank you.
In the last 3 years, over 453 people have died on the streets of Edmonton because they didn't have shelter. Just last month, 3 more people have died in encampments, and hundreds more are facing another brutal Alberta winter in tents. Some of them, Mr. Speaker, won't survive. Community organizations in my district of Edmonton-Griesba do heroic life-saving work, but they've had to shoulder this burden alone. Conservative and Liberal consecutive governments have refused to step up and fight the corporate greed that is the cause of the housing crisis. Decades of cuts and neglect have left Canada with one of the lowest shares of public housing in the G7. The state of our public housing is horrific. Many sites I toured this summer, Mr. Speaker, have black mold and even have no running water. It's time for the government to get serious about tackling the housing crisis. New Democrats will never stop fighting until no one has to spend another Alberta winter in a tent. People shouldn't have to die like this today, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Mastinongé. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased today to underscore the 350th anniversary of Berthierville. In 1672, Intendant Talon conceded the seigneurie to Mr. Randin, who then sold it to Alexandre Berthier, from whom it takes its name. Its coat of arms is rich in symbolism. The dragon is the emblem of the city of Bergerac, where Berthier was born. The flame symbolizes the Eddy Match Company Limited, which was a major match manufacturer from 1919 to 1957, and the silver horn represents Melcher's Distilleries, one of the main industries from 1898 to 1985. Berthier gave us Guy Rocher, Gilles Villeneuve, and Joanie Rochette, so who knows who's next? I'd like to thank the Berthier Heritage Society and all the volunteers who have worked so hard to organize the festivities. And I urge all Berthier residents to celebrate all together towards Berthier. But happy anniversary.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, everything in this country seems to be broken since the Liberal government took office in 2015. Government's reckless spending has led to a 40-year high inflation rate, 6.9% just this month, and Canadian families simply can't absorb those rising costs. Instead, 1.5 million Canadians a month are having to use a food bank, and 1 in 5 Canadians are skipping meals. 9 in 10 Canadians are now tightening household budgets, and the average credit card balance held by Canadians was at a record high of $2,121 by the end of September. RBC estimates that households will soon have to allocate 15% of their income to debt servicing alone. This government needs to take this inflation crisis seriously. They need to cap government spending and inflationary deficits and bring inflation down now.
The honourable member for Canada, Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, this morning the Minister for Women, Gender Equality and Youth launched Canada's first youth-focused gender-based violence awareness campaign. It's not just. It's not just is a call for each of us to speak up when we see gender-based violence in any form. Gender-based violence is more than just physical and sexual violence. Emotional, financial, and cyber violence can be just as harmful with lasting psychological impacts. It can happen to anyone of any age or gender identity. Mr. Speaker, it's not just locker room talk. It's not just how someone is. We want Canadians and Canadian youth to know that gender-based violence is not just. Thank you.
Oral questions, question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
With a 32% increase in violent crime, one might expect the government, with the CBSA or police officers, to invest in those authorities, but no. Instead, they want to ban hunting weapons. And academic experts said yesterday this is going to cost an additional $1 billion. That's money that could have been used to protect our borders and crack down on street gangs. Why not protect people instead of targeting hunters? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to reassure my colleague and everyone here that this bill doesn't target hunters and owners of guns. It targets assault weapons that have been used in Nova Scotia, Quebec, and Ontario. They've caused a lot of casualties, and that's precisely why we need to work together to better protect all Canadians with policies that make sense. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
That the minister has provided in his very legislation, it is not assault rifles, it is hunting rifles. Let me list off some of the rifles. The Montefeltro Super 90 Turkey, the Mossberg 715T, Tactical 22 Duck Commander, the Benelli Super Black Eagle Ducks Unlimited. These are firearms specifically designed to hunt small fowl and to go after vermin and other farm pests. Why won't the government target real crime rather than targeting farmers and hunters?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I assure my colleague that we're going to work with the members of the Standing Committee on Public Safety with regards to this amendment, but more importantly, our goal here is to target those assault-style rifles, those AR-15-style guns, which have been used in far too many casualties in Port-au-Pic, in Quebec, in Ontario, where most recently we saw 2 frontline police officers gunned down. Mr. Speaker, I don't know how anyone can look the families of the victims in the eye and say that we can't do everything that is necessary to take these guns off of our streets. These AR-15s have no place on our streets, Mr. Speaker.
Well, Leader of the Opposition.
Well, he's doing nothing to take dangerous guns off the street. In fact, 82% of guns used in crime in Toronto, according to the city's police, come smuggled across the border. He's done nothing about that, but he wants to spend another $1 billion going after rifles and shotguns that are specifically designed and used by hundreds of thousands of law-abiding and licensed Canadians for hunting. And these are law-abiding people who have been vetted by the RCMP. Why does he keep targeting the lawful people rather than keeping the illegal guns out?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, my honourable colleague from the Conservative Party can continue to spread disinformation, but I will tell you very clearly that on this side of the House, we are targeting those AR-15 style guns which have been used in mass casualties. And this is part of a broader plan, a plan that will actually eradicate gun violence. Mr. Speaker, he talks about supporting CBSA. This government puts $138 million into the CBSA to stop illegal smuggling. What did the Conservatives do, Mr. Speaker? They voted against. That's wrong. They should support frontline law enforcement so we can stop illegal smuggling of guns at our borders.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The National Bank came up with staggering housing statistics today. It now takes 67% of the average monthly income to pay bills on the average home. In fact, the average mortgage payment for a new home in Toronto is now $7,000. And that's if you can afford the home, because it takes now 27 years for the average person to save up for the down payment on that home. How is it possible that the average Canadian cannot afford the average home here in the nation with the second biggest supply of land anywhere on earth?
The Honourable Minister for Housing.
We know that one of the main challenges facing the housing market is enough housing supply. We have the fastest growing population in the G7, but very little supply. That's why we introduced the Housing Accelerator Fund, to work directly with municipalities to increase and double the new construction of housing in the country. We're also introducing a new innovative rent-to-own program and putting together a first-time home buyer tax-free savings account of $40,000, as well as doubling the first-time home buyers tax credit, Mr. Speaker. Those are real actions that they voted against.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mais la seule chose qu'ils ont doublé.
The only thing they doubled was the cost of housing. The cost of houses has doubled since this government and this Prime Minister took office. And the inflationary spending with the money they printed has further inflated the price of housing. And now with interest rates, mortgage payments are even more expensive. And the vast majority of Canadians cannot even dream of owning a home these days. When will this government change its inflationary practices and allow municipalities to build housing so that Canadians can have quality homes? The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, the biggest gatekeeper against municipalities building more housing supply is the Leader of the official opposition, because he voted against the Housing Accelerator Fund, a fund precisely to invest in more housing supply, Mr. Speaker. And when we're talking about first-time home buyers, $40,000 tax-free savings account, the Leader of the official opposition directed his team to vote against it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, these are real efforts at making sure that more and more Canadians can access the dream of home ownership. But the fact of the matter is, they talk about gatekeepers. They're the biggest gatekeepers. They're not serious about this issue. They don't have a plan. It's been 300 days since he became leader. No how.
L'honorable député. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker.
Monsieur le Président.
The government doesn't appear to understand how difficult a position Canada is in. They've been poking China, the greatest geopolitical power in the world, and instead of aligning with the U.S. or hiding behind them, Canada is showing itself to be weak and allowing China to bulldoze us. The idea that there was illegal funding and the $70,000 spent in the riding of Papineau. Where does the government stand on these things? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, our government takes all allegations of foreign interference very seriously, and that's why we created two panels to investigate all allegations, and those panels found that the elections in 2019 and 2021 were conducted with integrity, and we will continue to provide all the tools national security agencies need to protect our democratic institutions. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Maybe that's why the Prime Minister did his show with the Chinese leader, because he wanted everyone to think nothing happened. But we need answers with some substance to them. The Prime Minister has to be accountable. He pretends to be protecting Canada, but he's protecting himself and the Liberal Party. We have questions about funding in the Prime Minister's riding. Could the Prime Minister put this all behind him by calling for an inquiry into financing of his riding in 2016? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, my colleague knows that we created an arm's-length, nonpartisan panel to examine all the allegations of foreign interference, and those panels confirmed that the elections in 2019 and 2021 were free, fair, and equitable, and open, and that's why we will continue to protect our democratic institutions. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, for weeks, doctors have been sounding the alarm about the catastrophic situation in Quebec's ERs. People have died waiting. Just yesterday, Guylaine Larose, a pediatrician at the Sainte Justine Hospital, said she'd never seen so many children in respiratory distress. Doctors and nurses are exhausted and parents are worried. We're in a crisis, but the Liberals apparently have no sense of urgency. During the pandemic, our seniors suffered. Now our children are suffering and at risk. What's it going to take for the Liberals to react and invest in treating our children? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the question from my colleague. We need to respond to the crisis among healthcare workers, and that's why we have taken important steps, including an action plan for healthcare workers. And we're looking for medium and long-term solutions too, to deal with, to make the system more efficient. The Chief Medical Officer will be reporting on solutions in the longer term. Thank you.
James Bay.
In the fight to block justice for First Nation children, this government's put up 23 non-compliance orders, spent millions on lawyers, and are now back again fighting in federal court, and they have lost every single legal action. Fixing the broken child welfare system is possible, but it requires trust and goodwill. So will the minister just call off his lawyers, take the arbitrary deadline off the table, sit down with the communities and the child welfare experts, and put an end to the systemic discrimination and underfunding facing First Nation children once and for all? Will he do the right thing?
The Honourable Minister for Indigenous Relations.
Mr. Speaker, we are so encouraged by the historic work that we've done with Indigenous, with First Nations partners to arrive at an agreement in principle, a final settlement agreement, Mr. Speaker, that is historic in a number of ways, not just for the sum of money, Mr. Speaker, that First Nations children who have been harmed by a systemically discriminating system will receive, but also historic in the nature at which we arrived at that final settlement agreement. Mr. Speaker, it was indeed First Nations led, and I am proud to work with partners on ensuring that we complete this work.
The Honourable Member for Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Mr. Speaker, Canada was seen as a country of prosperity. That's why my family came here. Like so many newcomers, we came here with very little, but with hard work, we were able to succeed. Today, that dream for so many newcomers and citizens has gone up in smoke because of Liberals' mismanagement on the economy. 40-year highs in grocery prices. Home prices have doubled under this Prime Minister, and now mortgages cost Canadians 64% of their income. And the Liberals plan on piling on even more pain. Will the Liberals stop their inflationary spending and stop driving up the costs on gas, groceries, and home heating?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And we have shown that we are there for Canadians, particularly vulnerable Canadians. And I'd like to start off by saying that the Conservatives voted against a dental benefit that is becoming available to Canadian parents today. Today, Canadian parents can apply for $650 in support per child. There is also the Canada Workers Benefit, which is already benefiting Canadian workers across the country, and in 10 days' time, you'll be able to apply for the rental benefit. Mr. Speaker, we're there for Canadians.
The honourable member for Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Mr. Speaker, that member is clueless. She knows a vast majority of Canadians won't see a penny of those announcements. But what they will see is Liberals' reckless spending will cost each Canadian $3,500, according to the Governor of the Bank of Canada. They'll continue seeing their home heating costs soar because this leave it in the ground Liberal government cancelled pipelines across the country. This Liberals' greed knows no bounds, and they'll continue to charge Canadians even more. Why won't the Liberals stop their reckless spending, get off the backs of Canadians, and axe their failed carbon tax?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I know that I'm successfully countering the disinformation on the other side when they insult me. But today, Mr. Speaker, Canadian families are going to be able to apply for the dental benefit. And we will continue supporting vulnerable Canadians while ensuring that Canada maintains the lowest deficit and the lowest debt of all the G7 countries. We have been extremely fiscally responsible, and the triple credit and the AAA credit rating proves it, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, a new Ipsos poll showed that 26% of Canadians say that they will be accessing charitable services over the next 6 months for basic essentials like food, clothing, and shelter. The survey also says that 25% of Canadians will be donating less to charities, and they cite the biggest reason being the increase in inflation and the effects of their personal finances. And yet, this Liberal government continues to make it worse by increasing their taxes. So when will the Liberals stop their forced carbon tax on people and stop charging them for their...
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we understand how challenging life is for Canadians right now. And as my colleague mentioned, we've been putting forward significant benefits to help them, whether it's the Canada Child Benefit, the dental benefit, which is accessible today, or the increase of the Canada's Workers Benefit. And as of next week, low-income renters can also access benefits. So, Mr. Speaker, we've been there and we continue to be there for Canadians at every single stage of their life. Unfortunately, I can't say the same across the way for my colleagues opposite. The Conservatives keep voting against supporting Canadians each time. If they'd like to...
The honourable member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there is an obvious disconnect between the Liberals and what people are actually going through. $3,500 a year is what the Governor of the Bank of Canada said the average Canadian will be paying more because of inflation. Wow. That represents $14,000 for the average family of four. No wonder more people are saying that they'll be accessing charitable services. No wonder more people are saying that they'll be donating less. And yet the Liberals continue to make things worse by charging more people on their taxes. So again, will the Liberals stop forcing their failed carbon tax on Canadians?
Great question.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind the member opposite that, Canadians, even if they are having a tough time, are seeing that around the world, the global economic instability is in fact causing inflation to be much higher elsewhere. More of higher inflation among our peers is what they are seeing around the world, and we are continuing to invest in order to support vulnerable Canadians. I'd also like to remind the member that it is the policy of our government that lifted over 2 million Canadians, including 450,000 children, out of poverty, Mr. Speaker. So when she talks about her concern for children and for families, her voting record should prove it.
The Honourable
Member for Bellechasse-les-Échemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, Canadian families' finances are under pressure while the governments are outrageously flush. And so we have one easy step to solve the problem, not increasing the carbon tax. Canada's the only G7 country to have raised gas taxes in the midst of a global energy crisis. Will this government finally agree to our demand and follow suit with the other G7 countries? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, rather. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I have good news for my colleague. The carbon tax doesn't apply in Quebec, and Quebecers agree that there's a need to deal with climate change. And our government has a sound plan to protect our economic stability while at the same time making sure that we're fiscally responsible and addressing climate change, and we have the lowest debt and deficit of all G7 countries. The honourable member for Bellechasse. Mr. Speaker, the plan she's talking about is a taxing plan. While the government forges ahead with an increase to the carbon tax, they proudly announce new spending demanded by the NDP in exchange for propping them up. It's not cool. In our rural areas, driving is a must. There's no public transit. Families, workers, and businesses are being sacrificed by this government because they insist on raising the carbon tax. How can they look the other way and pretend not to see that the carbon tax is slowing down the economy, making Canadians poorer, and not doing anything for the environment, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of...
Mr. Speaker, as my honourable colleague said, the federal pricing on pollution does not apply in Quebec, but Mr. Speaker, it does apply on the prairies where I come from. There was good news for Atlantic Canada last week, Mr. Speaker. Good news for the prairies coming up this spring. As of April 1st, a family of four will get up to $1,500 in Alberta and Saskatchewan, $1,000 in Manitoba. Yes, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, those checks are going to be coming every 3 months. It's going to help with cash flow, Mr. Speaker, and it's going to help with affordability. The Conservatives have no plan, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, Quebec's Minister of the French language is meeting with the federal government today. Good timing. Last Thursday marked a historic anniversary. 2 years ago, the National Assembly passed a unanimous motion calling on Ottawa to help make the Charter of the French language cover federally regulated companies. But Bill C-13 does the opposite. It lets those companies off the hook. Will the minister tell her counterpart she will amend C-13 to stop encouraging the anglicization of Quebec? The Honourable Minister of Official Languages. Mr. Speaker, it's disappointing that the Bloc keeps misinforming people about C-13. We are the first government to recognize the decline in French, and that's why we've gone ahead with this legislation. And yes, will have the opportunity to meet with my counterpart today. I'm looking forward to working together because as Minister of Official Languages, I want to work closely with the provinces and territories to make French advance in this country. The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, Quebec's Minister of the French language says all indicators are red when it comes to the decline of French. One of the main indicators comes from StatsCan, in fact. 1 in 5 Quebecers can't work in French in Quebec. And it's even worse in Montreal and the Outaouais. So why is the minister letting federally regulated companies off the hook when it comes to the Charter of the French language? Her own stats prove the decline of French in the workplace in Quebec. Doesn't she pay attention to science? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, once again, our government and the government of Quebec have a shared goal. We want to protect and promote French all across the country. And that's why we're moving forward with an ambitious piece of legislation so that all workers and federally regulated companies will allow their workers to work in French and customers to be served in French. I hope the Bloc and the Conservative will support this bill because we need to take it to the next level all across the country. The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, the Quebec minister also called for a national awakening to the decline of French. It's time for the federal Liberals from Quebec to wake up. Bill C-13 does not protect French in Quebec. It protects English in the workplace and anglicizes Quebec. It's time for federal Liberals from Quebec to remember they don't work for Air Canada or for the Royal Bank. They work for Quebecers. And the language of work for Quebecers is French. When will they wake up? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Once again, order. The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the national awakening the Bloc refers to is for them to work with us to promote and protect French all across the country. But what are they going to do? Yet again, theatre. It's all for show. We are the first government to recognize the decline of French in Canada and in Quebec, and that's why we've moved forward with ambitious legislation. Mr. Speaker, instead of bickering, why can't we work together to move this legislation through? Thank you.
Hill. Speaker, 2 days ago, Liberal members of Parliament and the Minister of Transportation welcomed a dangerous anti-Semite, Holocaust denier, and a terrorist sympathizer to this place. Nazi Kataba and Meshwar Media, whom the government already gave tax dollars to, has referred to the Holocaust as a HoC, the biggest lie in history. This newspaper called Judaism a terrorist religion. Worse yet, this man praised last week's heinous murder of a 16-year-old Canadian teenager by terrorists. Will the Minister of Transport denounce this man, denounce the publication, and apologize to Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation.
Mr. Speaker, anti-Semitism is real, and all of us must condemn it whenever we see it. This individual should not have been invited to this event. He should not have been welcomed to this event. That event was hosted by MPs from all parties. I was happy to always participate in parliamentary events, but we all should condemn anti-Semitism and all forms of hate wherever we see it.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
No apology, no condemnation. Members of the Canadian government should not be meeting with Holocaust deniers and Hamas sympathizers who praise the murder of children. They invited him and they got caught. I'll ask again, will the Minister of Transport have the courage to stand up on his feet in this House and apologize to Canadians?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member here is misleading the House. I did not meet with that individual, and let me be very clear. As members of Parliament, we attend events everywhere. We're accessible to our community members, and there's always a risk of us meeting unsavory individual. The issue here, Mr. Speaker, is how we as MPs react to this. So I want to make sure that I'm clear. I condemn anti-Semitism. I will always condemn anti-Semitism. Will the members of the opposite side do the same when they encounter members who are spreading hate and anti-Semitism across Canada?
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, listen to this. Well rooted in the history of Quebec, hunting allows us to reconnect with nature and escape from everyday life. Whether you hunt for the challenge or the quality of the meat, this activity is within everyone's reach. Who said that? The Quebec government. Also, the Conference Board of Canada said that in 2018, nearly 3 million Canadians took part in hunting, trapping, sport shooting, and fishing activities. This industry supported nearly 100,000 jobs. Does the minister understand that hunters are not a threat to society and stop this madness? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, I fully agree with my colleague. We have a lot of respect for hunters, but this bill and all this government's policies target criminal elements, target assault-style guns that have been used in tragedies all across Canada. That's why the Conservatives have to change their position. They want to make assault weapons legal once again, and that's bad. Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are living with more frequent and extreme weather events that has left Canadians devastated. While people are dealing with the impacts of the climate crisis and trying to keep up with rising costs, the biggest polluters are getting even richer. Like the NDP, 350 Canada, Lead Now, and Greenpeace are calling on the Liberals to tax the excess profits of oil and gas so that they pay their fair share. When will the minister stop defending the interests of the oil and gas industry and start making them pay what they owe?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of the Environment.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, we know two things. We know that energy profits are at record levels, and Mr. Speaker, we know that emissions have to come down. Mr. Speaker, we're investing $9.1 billion in an emissions reduction plan. We'd put our money on the table, Mr. Speaker. Oil and gas companies have to come to the plate. They have to put their shoulder to the wheel. They have to work with us, Mr. Speaker, to get those emissions down, to realize the ambitious targets we have set through our emissions reduction plan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton-Griesbach.
Mr. Speaker, the last three Auditor Generals have been clear. The government has failed to help First Nations communities protect themselves against natural disasters. The Auditor General is fed up with this government's inaction, and Canadians are fed up too. Even the Deputy Minister sees that this government is leaving First Nations communities to fend for themselves. The climate emergency is here. We have no time to wait. When will this government drop the platitudes and deliver the $358 million First Nations need?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I am happy to say that I agree with the member opposite that the climate emergency is real, and that is challenging First Nations communities and indeed all communities across this country. Indigenous Services Canada works closely with First Nations communities that are under threat from fire, from torrential rain and wind, to make sure that people can get to safety and that we can protect infrastructure when those events happen. But I also agree with the member opposite that as a nation we are going to have to pivot to ensuring communities have the prevention and the plans they need to adapt.
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Pontiac. Mr. Speaker, hunters from throughout Canada are passing down a proud tradition, and some are concerned. I can tell you from experience that being in nature with your family or friends is not just good for mental health when you're practicing the sport, but also helps provide food security for many families and Indigenous communities. Can the Minister of Public Safety reassure us that the changes that have been made to Bill C-21 will not target our hunters? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for her question. I agree with her. Hunting is not only a tradition, but an activity that is at the heart of many communities. That is why weapons that are often used for hunting will continue to be allowed. We will ensure that. Bill C-21 is aiming to make our communities safer. Our government has been clear. Weapons made for the battlefield do not belong in our communities.
L'honorable député, the Honourable Member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, CSIS advised the Prime Minister in its top-secret briefing note that the way to combat foreign interference is through, quote, a policy that is grounded in transparency and sunshine in order to highlight the point that foreign interference should be exposed to the public, end quote. Why is the Prime Minister and the government not heeding this advice? Why are they not going public and telling Canadians exactly which candidates and which riding associations were involved in Beijing's foreign interference?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Speaker, I agree with my colleague that we need to take allegations of foreign interference very, very seriously, and that's why we created independent, nonpartisan panels to shine a light on the allegations of foreign interference, both of whom confirmed that the elections in 2019 and 2021 were free and fair, Mr. Speaker, and we will continue to shine a light on the tools, on the investments that we are putting into our national security community to protect all of our democratic institutions, including elections. Thank you.
Member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, intelligence experts here and in the Five Eyes are saying the best way to combat foreign interference is transparency and sunshine, to go public with information. That's why last summer the UK government and MI5 went public about a Beijing agent in the UK Parliament, Christine Lee. She was publicly named, and so were the MPs who were the target of her donations. These MPs took action to protect the integrity of the UK Parliament. Why won't the government do the same thing in this country?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, let's review some of the facts about what our government has actually done. One of the first things we did was actually repeal Stephen Harper's Unfair Elections Act. And what did that do? It actually closed foreign funding loopholes that the Conservatives and that member seem to have no problem with in past elections. In addition, Mr. Speaker, let's also talk about the fact that in the 2019 HoC annual report that was tabled in this very House actually talked about the foreign interference attempts, and that member and those members had access to those documents.
I just want to remind the honourable members that when someone's speaking, shouting at them is not parliamentary and it's not polite. So I just want to remind the honourable members. The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, I invite that honourable member to read the HoC report that was tabled by a member of her own government, which was in fact scathing about the government's failure to respond to the persistent problem of foreign interference. Now, Mr. Speaker, we know that the Prime Minister's secrecy and refusal to answer basic questions about foreign interference is putting this debate on its back foot. He's putting his personal interests ahead of the national interests by not listening to CSIS on the benefits of sunlight, giving us information. Will the Prime Minister answer the question, has he received briefings or memos on this subject since he last denied it?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs.
It seems I've hit a nerve with the member who's opposite, because let's review the facts. The first is the fact that foreign interference does happen, and as a result, in this country, we have put in place strong measures to strengthen our democracy. Conservatives seem to just be waking up to this fact now. But, Mr. Speaker, foreign interference, due to the strength of our democracy, doesn't always mean those attempts work. But when it comes to the work that we're doing, like I said, and the member opposite should know I was a member of HoC, so I'm very well aware of the reports that they do. But, Mr. Speaker, they receive briefings and they...
L'honorable député de...
The honourable member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Let's discuss the facts. There will be a top security briefing for the Prime Minister to ensure that Canada uses a transparent approach. That's what the intelligence agencies said. And yesterday, the Prime Minister himself said the member across the way who used to be in cabinet understands the importance of respecting guidelines on national security. Then why is the Prime Minister refusing to follow the directives of our intelligence agencies? Why is he hiding information from Canadians? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we implemented measures to increase transparency about threats of foreign interference. We created various groups and tabled 2 reports written by independent groups to confirm that the 2019 and 2021 elections were free and fair. We will continue to increase the level of transparency because that is part of protecting our democratic values. The honourable member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, pediatric hospitals are overwhelmed. But the day before yesterday, instead of announcing solutions, the Prime Minister once again blamed the provinces. This needs to stop. This is not the province's fault. It's because of underfunding of the health system. For more than 2 years, Quebec and the provinces have been asking for $28 billion more to help the health system get back on the right foot, and yet the federal government doesn't want to. Today, does the government realize that there are consequences to holding back the money that our pediatric hospitals need? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. Our government has been collaborating with the provinces and territories, not only to provide funding, but also to offer a national vision for the health system. We have increased the health transfers. We will increase the health transfers by 10% in March 2023, and we are taking other measures as well. We will continue to work with the provinces and territories to improve healthcare in Canada. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Well, Mr. Speaker, the only 2 things that the federal government has actually done about this crisis is to blame the provinces and hold back the money. I would challenge any Liberal member to go to a pediatric ER in their riding, look into a parent's eyes and say, you know, it's all the province's fault. Mr. Speaker, we can't waste more time on petty partisan games. The federal government just needs to transfer the money. When will it do so? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for the question. From the beginning of the pandemic, our government has invested more than $72 billion in order to protect Canadians' health. We will continue to work with the provinces and territories. Our health system is facing major challenges. It is critical that we work together to improve the system for Canadians. We need to work together in order to move forward.
Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Inflation is at a 40-year high. Interest rates have increased at their fastest rate in decades, and the Bank of Canada is telling us they need to go higher. The Prime Minister's solution? Spend more and raise taxes. While his inflation tax eats into the paychecks of Canadians, they're cutting into their diets. If this Prime Minister really was serious about making life more affordable for Canadians, he would cancel his carbon tax increase immediately. Will this Liberal government stop forcing their failed carbon tax on Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, we've put forward a responsible plan that is going to help vulnerable Canadians while ensuring that we maintain the lowest deficit and the lowest debt among G7 countries. Unlike the Conservative leader that has proposed no economic plan for Canadians, we have put forward something solid. Mr. Speaker, the Conservative plan can be summed up by abandoning our fight against climate change and advising Canadians to invest in cryptocurrency in order to opt out of inflation. As a result of the news of this week with BlockFi declaring bankruptcy, I think we can all agree that was...
The Honourable Member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Well, Mr. Speaker, they haven't met an environmental target yet. Canadians are staring at bare cupboards and wondering how they're going to pay their heating bill this winter. 1.5 million Canadians have been forced to use food banks in a single month. 1 in 5 are skipping meals, and with the cost of home heating going up, they aren't going to be able to afford to heat their homes. The choice for Canadians isn't between Disney Plus and Netflix. It's between heating and eating. Will this Liberal government stop forcing their failed carbon tax on Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, and as usual, the Conservatives are spreading misinformation, Mr. Speaker. Emissions are going down. We're on track to meet our targets. 8 out of 10 families will be better off under our pricing pollution. But what's the Conservative record, Mr. Speaker? They cut $350 million from the climate change budget. They blew up Kyoto and blew up our emissions targets at the same time. And now, Mr. Speaker, they are blaming us for their inaction. They have no plan for climate change. They have no plan for the economy. They have no plan for affordability. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, it's the Liberals that have no plan for the environment. It's a tax plan. I just received a propane bill from a mother of 3. Mr. Speaker, $614 for propane, $55 for the Liberal carbon tax. And winter is just starting. Mr. Speaker, this is getting vindictive. A carbon tax that will triple home heating, gas, and food, while the Prime Minister spends Canadian tax dollars on $6,000 a night ritzy hotels. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are suffering. These Liberals are out to lunch and Canadians are being forced to skip theirs. When will the Liberals stop punishing hardworking Canadians and axe their failed carbon tax?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, we must address the current affordability pressures while concurrently continuing to address the threat of climate change and building a prosperous low-carbon future. A price on pollution is an efficient market-based approach to reducing pollution, an approach that squarely addresses affordability. And under our plan, 8 out of 10 Canadians receive more than what they pay, and that is the truth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Halifax West.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Alors que les...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As people in Halifax are continuing to rebuild after Hurricane Fiona, they have been helped by the fact that this government is there for them. Thanks to the Hurricane Fiona Recovery Fund, businesses throughout my riding have been able to begin rebuilding after that horrible storm. Can the minister responsible tell the House and all Canadians from the Atlantic region how this government will continue to help our communities rebuild? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the member for Halifax West for her hard work at this important question. Over the last few months, I've visited Atlantic Canada several times, and I've seen firsthand the devastation of Hurricane Fiona. Communities have been seriously affected. That's why we quickly created the Hurricane Fiona Recovery Fund. This week, we announced that applications are open to increase connectivity in the most severely affected regions that can't access other funding. We will always be there for Atlantic Canadians, Mr. Speaker, in good and bad times.
For Saskatoon, Grasswood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians are struggling to make ends meet. The one-time handouts by this Liberal government are not a solution to financial insecurity. This government continues to give their friends lucrative contracts, raising the price on groceries, gas, and heating just to subsidize their reckless spending. Canadians rightfully are concerned about their future, their finance future. Will this government finally listen to Canadians and stop their inflationary spending?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
I find it really interesting that our colleagues across the way don't understand what it means to invest in Canadians. For example, this government signed agreements with every province and territory across this country to make sure that Canadian families have affordable, quality, inclusive childcare, which is not just good for families, it's great for the economy. On average, families across this country are seeing 50% reduction in fees, $4,000 of real cash, in addition to all the other benefits, whether it's the CCB, whether it's the dental and rental, which they voted against. So, Mr. Speaker, it's not about spending, it's about investing in families. Why aren't...
The Honourable Member for Peace River Westlock.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' malevolent spending is causing Canadians' lives to get more and more expensive. The Parliamentary Budget Officer is recently raising the alarms about the costs going up, and the massive spending plans have no transparency. We know that the Liberal government has tried to funnel funds to their Friends at the We charity in the past, while the Prime Minister's own family was receiving almost $500,000. On what date will the Liberals stop their malevolent inflationary spending?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, we know that Canada has the lowest deficit and the lowest debt among G7 countries. Experts have said that we have been extremely fiscally responsible. That is reflected in the numbers, Mr. Speaker, but we've also been there to support Canadians. And today, Mr. Speaker, Canadian parents will be able to apply for the new dental benefit. That is going to help 500,000 Canadian children under 12 in this country, Mr. Speaker. That's real money going back into the pockets of Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lobinière. Mr. Speaker, what are the consequences of Liberal inflation? Everything is expensive, far too expensive. Groceries, gas, rent, interest rates, heating, clothing. Everything we need in our daily lives is costing an arm and a leg. Liberal inflation is causing Canadians headaches right before the holidays, especially with the new taxes that are planned for 2023. Mr. Speaker, is there a solution to inflation? Yes. Get rid of the Liberal government! The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, we have brought forward a solid plan to help Canadians while being fiscally responsible. Conservatives have no plan. I'm going to ask everyone to calm down a little bit. It's nice to see how enthusiastic we all are, but we do need to calm down. from the beginning the parliamentary secretary, because I know that people were not able to hear all of her answer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have brought forward a robust plan to meet vulnerable Canadians' needs while being fiscally responsible. Whereas the Conservatives have no budget plan to propose to Canadians. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker. Let me correct that. Their plan is to attack pricing pollution as well as our seniors' pensions. They are attacking EI, and they are instead telling Canadians to invest in cryptocurrencies, which would actually cause them to lose their shirt. That is not serious, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Vancouver, Grenville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Protecting and extending workers' rights is a priority for this government, and these rights must never be taken for granted. This House unanimously passed Bill C-3, which established 10 sick days of paid sick leave for all federally regulated workers. Can the Minister of Labour tell us when paid sick leave for workers will come into effect and discuss the importance of these measures for Canadians in federally regulated sectors?
The Honourable Minister of Labour.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague from Vancouver Granville for the question. Right around this time last year, this House unanimously committed to providing 10 days of paid sick leave for workers in the federally regulated private sector. And I'm happy to stand here today to say that we did good on that promise. Paid sick leave is now in force today for all federally regulated private sector workplaces. This is good for all of us. It will make our economy stronger. It will make our workplaces safer. Workers should not have to choose between getting paid or getting better. I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, and all members of this House.
The Honourable Member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Mr. Speaker, Terrace, BC has the third highest death rate from toxic drug overdoses in our province. Yet northern residents are still struggling to access detox and treatment services. People are often having to wait weeks to get a bed in a facility, and when they do get a space, they're having to travel hours away from home. The Northern First Nations Alliance has a real plan for a new treatment center right in Northwest BC. They just need support with the cost. Will this minister step up and ensure that this project is completed as soon as possible?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. We all know that the toxic drug and overdose crises are having a painful impact on families and communities. We are working closely with the provinces and territories to create all the programs possible to improve the situation. Since 2017, we have invested more than $800 million to respond to the crisis, and we will continue to do so.
For Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, last week, Canada's federal housing advocate was clear the national housing strategy is failing. In my community, we're seeing this firsthand. Over the past 3 years, the number of people experiencing homelessness has tripled. Organizations across Waterloo Region are ready to build the affordable housing we need, but they're still waiting on federal funding. Will the Minister of Housing commit to ensuring the national housing strategy actually reduces homelessness in my community and in others across the country?
Honourable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for the question. It's a really important issue. That is why our government has prioritized investments to reduce and eventually eliminate chronic homelessness from Canada. We've doubled the federal program to combat homelessness from $2 billion to just over $4 billion. And in addition to that, we've introduced the Rapid Housing Initiative that has resulted in 10,250 deeply affordable homes targeting the most vulnerable members of our community. And we know that those investments are working all across the country. 64,000 Canadians were prevented from joining the ranks of the homeless in this country, and 32,000 were taken out of homelessness.
That's all the time we have for question period today. I wish to draw the attention of members to the presence in the gallery of the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada 2022 Impact Award winners: Cindy Blackstock, Fanny Lafontaine, Semi Siri, Jordan Stranger-Ross, Jan Grabowski, Oui, nous avons un rappel.
We have a point of order. The honourable member for Mégantic-Léran. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, during question period, this is a document that comes from the Canadian Intelligence Centre, and I decided to follow your directives to be able to table this report in a very transparent manner, which comes from PROC concerning foreign interference in our elections. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, que tous ceux qui s'opposent.
All those opposed to the honourable member tabling this motion, please say nay.
Nous avons.
No, we do not have unanimous consent.
It being 3:11 p.m., pursuant to order made on Thursday, June 23rd, 2022, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion at third reading stage of Bill C-29. Convoquez les députés.
Call in the members.
La question.
The question is the following one.
Seconded by Mr. Macaulay Cardigan. Moved that Bill C-29, an act to provide for the establishment of a National Council for Reconciliation, be now read a third time and do pass. La période.
The 10-minute period for members voting electronically has started, and the House will now proceed to the vote for members participating in person.
All those in favour of the motion will please rise.
Mr. Holland. Mr. Macaulay Cardigan. Mr. Sajjan. Mr. Blair. Mr. O'Regan. Monsieur Rodriguez. Miss Tassi. Madame Pittspa-Taylor. Miss Jazik. Mr. Carr. Miss Chager.